You don't find this job. It finds you. It starts the way it always starts, unremarkably. You're finishing a master's degree in mathematics or computer science, maybe linguistics, somewhere quiet, a state school probably. Nothing glamorous. You've been coding since you were 12. You're comfortable with large datasets, and somewhere in the last year, you casually sat a government aptitude screening that felt more like a personality test than anything else. You forgot about it 2 weeks later. Then the email comes. No letterhead. No agency name in the signature. Just a name, a phone number, and a single line that reads, "We'd like to discuss a career opportunity aligned with your academic profile." The phone number has a Maryland area code. You Google it. Nothing comes up. You call it anyway because you're 23 years old and your student loans are very real, and the salary range they mention in the follow-up is not. The first meeting is in an office building that looks like it houses a dental practice. There's a woman in business casual who doesn't introduce herself with a last name. She asks you questions for 90 minutes. Not about your skills, about your character. Do you have foreign contacts? Do you use drugs recreationally? Have you ever shared sensitive information with someone you shouldn't have? You answer honestly, because somewhere in the room there is almost certainly a device measuring your stress responses. And you somehow know this even though no one told you. That instinct, that low-level paranoia is actually the first thing they're testing for. They want people who assume they're being watched, because those are the people who understand, from the gut, what this work actually is. You pass. The polygraph comes next, and it is nothing like what you imagined. You imagined a machine, a needle, a graph. What you get is 3 hours in a beige chair with a man who speaks very softly and asks you the same question 17 different ways. Do you ever have contact with a foreign intelligence service? Number. Have you ever been approached by someone who claimed to represent a foreign government? Number. Have you ever been in a situation where someone seemed unusually interested in your work? You pause. You think about the professor. You mention the professor. The soft-voiced man writes something down and you never hear about the professor again. But you understand, with cold clarity, that someone else will. The background investigation takes 9 months. People you haven't spoken to in 6 years get quiet phone calls. Your college roommate is asked whether you ever expressed anti-government sentiment. Your childhood neighbor is asked whether you seemed like a stable person. Your entire life is being reverse-engineered by strangers in search of a single crack they can use not to disqualify you, but to own you. A leverage point held in a file. Just in case. You will later understand that this is standard. You will later understand that everyone in the building has a file like that. Fort Meade, Maryland. You're given a badge that doesn't have your real name on it, just an employee number and a color-coded stripe. You are told which doors your stripe opens. You are not told what's behind the doors your stripe doesn't open, and you learn very quickly not to ask. The building is enormous. It has its own power grid, its own water supply, its own internal internet. The parking lot is the size of a small town. You will spend the next 18 months here learning tools you cannot describe to anyone outside of it. The first tool they show you is something you've read about, distantly, in a leaked document that made headlines years ago. Seeing it operational live, in real time, is different. You're looking at a dashboard that aggregates communication metadata from roughly the same number of people as live in Western Europe combined. Calls, not listened to, but logged. Who called whom, when, for how long, from what location. Cross-referenced against purchase records, travel data, financial transactions, social graphs. You are not reading anyone's messages. You are doing something more powerful than that. You are watching the shape of human life at continental scale. And the shape tells you almost everything. Your trainer, a compact woman in her 40s who has clearly been doing this since before you were in high school, explains it this way. You don't need to hear what a man says on the phone. You need to know that he calls the same number every Tuesday at 11 p.m., and that the number belongs to a burner registered to a show company in Bratislava. The content is noise. The pattern is the signal. You write this down. You think about it for years afterward. You're assigned a regional portfolio. Yours is Eastern Europe, specifically a cluster of cities along a corridor that has seen unusual financial movement in the last 8 months. You don't know why this corridor matters. You are not told why this corridor matters. You are given a set of selectors' phone numbers, email addresses, device identifiers, and told to monitor associated traffic and flag anything that deviates from established behavioral baseline. The work is quieter than you expected. Most days you are looking at nothing. Patterns within patterns, And most of them mean absolutely nothing. A man calls his brother twice a week. A woman emails her supplier about delayed shipments. A logistics company's internal comms spike on Thursdays because Thursday is when they process invoices. You flag nothing for 6 weeks. You begin to wonder if you're missing something. You begin to wonder if you're simply not smart enough to see what's there. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon in February, you notice something. A device that has been completely silent, no calls, no data, no movement for 11 days, suddenly pings a cell tower in Gdansk for 40 seconds and goes dark again. 40 seconds, no call, no message, just a handshake. With the network, a proof of life, and then silence. You stare at it for a long time, you write it up, you submit the report through the internal system and hear nothing back. 3 weeks later, a senior analyst you've never met stops by your desk, sets a coffee down in front of you and says, simply, "Good catch." Then he walks away. You never find out what you caught. You understand that this is how it will always be. You will pull threads, and somewhere, in a room above your clearance level, someone else will see what unravels. By the time you reach the data mining stage, you have stopped thinking about the people behind the data. This is not because you are cruel. It is because you cannot function if you don't. The analyst who thinks about individuals burns out inside 18 months. You've watched it happen to 2 people on your floor already. Both of them technically brilliant. Both of them unable to metabolize the cognitive weight of knowing what they know about strangers who have no idea they're being known. You make a different choice. You zoom out. You see populations, not persons. You see flows, vectors, networks. It's the only way to stay intact. The work at this rank is fundamentally about financial topology. Money moves the way water moves. It finds the lowest resistance path. And when someone is trying to hide where it's going, they create structure. Shell companies, layered transfers, correspondent banking chains through jurisdictions that don't ask questions. Your job is to look at that structure and find the fingerprint beneath it. Every financial network, no matter how carefully constructed, reflects the psychology of the person who built it. Paranoid people build redundant structures. Rushed people leave timing signatures. Greedy people always skim, and that skimming creates a trail so consistent you can set your watch by it. You are 26 years old. You have never fired a weapon. You have never been in the field, but from a desk. In Maryland, you are dismantling financial architectures that took years to build, and the people who built them have no idea you exist. That asymmetry, that total, absolute invisibility is the first thing about this job that you genuinely love. Then comes the hardest rank of the first half. You are no longer just watching. You are deciding. Every morning you sit down with a queue of flagged profiles, people elevated by the system's filters, by junior analysts, by automated scoring models that nobody fully trusts but everybody uses, and you determine which ones constitute credible threat indicators worth escalating. This sounds procedural. It is not procedural. A credible threat indicator means a file moves upward, gets more eyes on it, attracts resources, potentially triggers actions downstream that you will never see and cannot walk back. An uncredible indicator means a file goes dormant, gets archived, and someone somewhere continues their life without knowing how close it got. You are wrong sometimes. You know this statistically even when you can't know it specifically. The system has no feedback loop clean enough to tell you your error rate. You make your calls, you submit your assessments, and the work moves on without you. You eat lunch at your desk. You stop talking much at home. You tell yourself this is just the job settling into your bones, which is true. But it is not only that. Something else is settling into, something harder to name and harder to put down, and you won't have a word for it until much later, when you're far enough up to see the whole shape of what you've been part of. You interface now with other agencies, CIA, FBI, the liaison relationships with Five Eyes partners, British GCHQ, Australian ASD, Canadian CSE that are older than most of the people operating them, and that run on a combination of formal legal agreements and deeply informal trust built over decades of shared work and shared secrets. You are the NSA's representative in rooms where everyone has a clearance and nobody says everything they know. You understand, sitting in those rooms, that the NSA is not one node in a network of equals. It is the engine. The others are powerful, capable, sophisticated, and they all need what you have. The data flows outward from Fort Meade the way light flows from a source, and everyone in your world is, in one way or another, operating in that light.